Hi, and welcome to the Improvisors podcast. I'm Neil Thomas, and this is my co-host, Kevin James.
Neil and I are enjoying immensely interviewing improvisers about their histories, their practices, their intentions, and their aspirations.
Today, it gives us great pleasure to be in conversation with YUMI UMIUMARE. We talk to her about improvisation, shamanism, subversion, Wowism, channeling, and the importance of keeping your pipe clean.
Wow. We hope you enjoy this as much as we have. It's a wonderful podcast.
Good morning, YUMI UMIUMARE. Hello, Yumi.
Good morning, Neil and Kevin.
Morning, Yumi.
We're so thrilled to be having this opportunity to talk with you this morning. We were talking a little bit before, and I realized how we both hold you in such high esteem, Yumi, as a performer and an artist and a person. You really are extraordinary.
Thank you.
And yeah, and we're thrilled to be able to kind of unpack your artistic life. So maybe the place to start might be back in Japan and how you got involved with Butoh.
Yes, it's interesting to listen and your question too, because I'm reflecting a lot, because almost this is the 30th year since I start living in Australia. So Australia is living longer now than Japan, because 93 I start get permanent residency in Australia. So before I was in Japan, and originally from Osaka, but when I was little, I did a classical ballet since I was 9, and always very physical kid as a kind of never be still. And my mother was just wanted me to do gymnastic, but we couldn't find a place, so we end up went to the classical ballet classes. So I started since I was 9, and I didn't like too much, but it was a very beautiful form of dance, and you learn how to get center. So I was always into the dance sort of music and big stage. I just used to love big stage, just being doing a little, even bit of a contrived kind of movement to classical ballet. Of course, you got to all choreograph. And even as a little kid, I was like wild animals, monkeys, running around, but doing a classical ballet is a bit like a whoop. But anyway, I was doing that, and then go to university as an education sort of university, national university. I could get to the physical education or Japanese languages, so I got a few licenses to be a teacher. But in a university, physical education, we have to choose dance, and that was a creative dance in education. So you got to learn, and you got to write a thesis, and that time no much computer, so sometimes people use the word process the typewriter, and we are writing handwriting. I actually found recently at home at my house, my mother's house, like handwriting thesis about dance 35 years ago nearly I borrowed. So anyway, so I found it very fascinating to get that history. Even I'm asking a bit sidetrack answering question. So I did a classical ballet, but went to the university, did a creative dance. But after graduated university, I, for some reason, went to the corporate company, wouldn't pursue this dance career, but not career, but I was always interested in, but it was that time, as we call bubble economy time in Japan, late 80s, 88, 89. So many people get a good job, and we were in national university, so we could get a quite high paid job, but also quite exciting job. So I was actually employed by the company called Recruit. Some people knows about big Recruit scandal have happened in late 80s around the bubble. Anyway, I went to that company for 2 years. Then, of course, my artistic creative mind never stop bubbling. So even working in a company in real estate or get good money, but also nice creative people, they always have bits sort of gathering and have a company's New Year's party. So I said, let's dance. So I just sort of gather all the people and we're gonna make dance and put the mask on and let's have a dance. And I start making choreograph others as if like bringing my old feel of dance and love of dance since I was little. But again, it's a dramatic time. Emperor died in late 80s. So emperor's gone. So the company said, no, you got to stop not doing anything, no party. So we canceled our party. So I was a bit upset. So we are just all naughty ourselves, went to the palace around the emperors and we put the mask on and we start dancing. But then people are really upset. I mean, we're not trying, we pay respect about this, but we are caught by some right-wing people and then we have to run off and we're actually caught in a newspaper, not a little bit quirky magazine. We are caught like a masked woman dancing naughty around the emperor's palace, you know? So when I see it, I said, oh, that's kind of full on, but also bringing my subversive idea about movement and dance, which is very much Butoh, which I was always interested in a very indirect way, because I see a lot of Butoh dance in Japan, which is very weird because I only learned classical ballet. So that time, around the same time, I start encountering a lot of Butoh company in Japan, in Tokyo. So again, it's not me of just doing as if I'm going to see the client, but 2 hours spare time, I just go to the Butoh workshop and just do the Butoh workshop and go to the client and just talking, and then just go to the other workshop, and end of the day, I just go to the other dance workshops. And so towards the end of, I mean, on the middle of my 2 years intense corporate time, almost I was doing a lot of fun thing as well as get the corporate life. Yeah, so then I started doing a company, start meeting lots of Butoh company who is running a workshop, and independent dance company who just making a performance piece. So I was juggling between corporate, wake up 6 and work, I don't know, like you have to be office 8 a.m. and do quite hard duty and obligations, and still very good people, but I just have to really find a place for my dance exercise. So in the end, I feel like a bit reaching some sort of, I mean, I have got so many drama happen. I can't tell everything, but so many drama happen and forced me to quit. So in the end, I meant to quit, but then around the same time, the company called Dairakudakan, one of the oldest Butoh company whom I was working with, and that company came to Indian, Australia. Anyway, so that company was doing all the workshop and I was going a lot there. And Dairakudakan was running a workshop, plus they said they're having a big performance season happening in Tokyo. That's 1990, around early time of 1990. So, and I said, yes, I would like to do it. And they said, oh, but you're working full time. And I said, I'm going to quit. This is the time. So I decided to quit. And but they said, oh, but you got to sell 20 tickets. That's a lot for people like that time, still $40 ticket, even 35 years ago. You got to sell an expensive ticket. And then, yeah, okay. So I just talked to all my clients. Can you buy a ticket? I'm going to quit this job. So like each company, I just asked like 4 or 5 different places. And believe it or not, I sold like 105 tickets. And people still couldn't believe it. Like, oh, I just bring it back and come Butoh company and say, how many tickets do you sell? And I said, I sold 105. And I said, what? Yes, I did. Anyway, so I was just bubbling my idea of little creative idea, but plus a little bit of a corporate, just how do you get the people's attentions and all that sort of thing. So I quit the company called Recruit and joined to the company called Dairakudakan. And this company came to Melbourne Festival 1991. That's beginning of my non-go back to corporate life, but forward for being artist. Yeah, that's sort of Tokyo episode, long-winded.
So you came to Australia in 1991.
Mm-hmm.
Did you stay here? Or did you go back at that time? What led you to stay in Australia? or to commit to?
1991, we visit as a company, like a 30 of us visited, and as one of the biggest state theatre we performed. We only stayed 10 days. And that was kind of window of first my introduction to Australia. And I met few people, but I met somebody who actually get into the relationship, personal relationship. So only 10 days, but because I met the person and I go back and bringing myself back in and out since 91. So that first visit is only 10 days and 5 days performances of like 2 shows a day kind of thing, very hardcore, those 90s, like 2 shows for 2, like, yeah, every day is 2 shows or something like that.
Had you traveled much before that, Yumi, outside of Japan?
Yes, I was interested in quite a lot of Asian culture. So I did go to Nepal or China or Thailand a little bit, but never been to Western country. So actually, yeah, I didn't, never actually. So because later on, the first time the company took to Australia, which was almost, oh, sorry, I was wrong. I went to Europe as when I was quitting Recruit, the company. I'm quitting. I'm going to be an artist. I'm going to go to Europe for 2 months. So I went to free traveling for 2 months. Yeah. Then for the second Western kind of country was the big time was Australia. Yeah.
I'd be interested to know what it was like working with that company in Tokyo. You were working with them for 5 years in Tokyo?
You mean corporate company or direct?
No,
direct with account.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like really intense 4 years actually. So not quite 5 years, because since after 93 I go back and meet up with them and do things. But first 3 years especially was very intense because we did a lot of tour. Even through the company member, we went to Paris and stayed for 1 month, or company tour around north part of Japan, or yeah, just a lot of small but quite intense and sometimes very big tour. Yeah, we did.
Great. I was wondering, I know that was were you all living together? Was that?
Oh, sorry, in a company, direct account. We were not living together, but a previous year or few years before me, all the company member, kind of classic Japanese Butoh style, they live together, work together. Sometimes women go into certain nightclub to perform, and men has to go to fish market in the morning, so they bring the money back, then stay together and they work together. But those time was past when I was in, so I was living my own place, and I was working in a different bars or juggling with a bit of after quit the corporate job. I was working in a certain bars or places are flexible because for me to go away for tour and stuff. So very interesting, but yeah, more individually people living together. Yeah.
Feels like, Yumi, you were living as an artist at that time. And it strikes me that you've committed to living almost as an artist ever since. Yes. You spoke earlier of your artistic and creative mind, and it seems like that is really central to you being in the world, that your creative process of performing and living in the world are so seemingly one and the same thing. Can you speak to that a little about how that is for you?
Yeah, true. Because as I said, I was very physical since I was little. I couldn't sit still, and always so curious, so many things. So simply very curious about the world itself or something different. I wasn't feel afraid to be different, but in Japanese education was a little bit more, you got to follow what the rule is, and even the school just follow what the other's opinion first rather than your opinion. Or if you go excursion, tell about your remorse, not what you think you were good. So I used to think like, why you have to talk remorse? I had a great time. And sometimes, as I remember, as a primary school kids, tell the remorse, and everyone says, oh, I should have get this, I should have done. And my turn came, and oh, I had a great time, and I went to this and this, and it was a great time. And teacher said, you have to tell the remorse. And I just thought of, but I don't have it. So it was kind of I remembered a lot of that incident because I was always a little bit questioned about why this, not necessarily the Japanese culture, but there's some society forcing to be very rigid and box us. So since that, my journey was always a bit questioning since I was little, but until I get out from Japan, I realized, the other world exists, not like only Japanese way, speaking other languages and different way of living and different way of framing the things or work, culture, perspective. Some culture, it's best thing you to do, and other culture, it's no, you know, so everything right thing becomes wrong, wrong becomes right. So I feel that's kind of relieving, but also more confusing. Of course, in the end, you would have been lived in a little bit more set society than total multicultural. I mean, I love it now, but took me really while to understand this way of diversity and really accept the others' differences in a deep level. I mean, I still sometimes, even you said, oh, it's great to accept the diversity, but of course, you got to be daily level. You really understand that's a hard thing. So I really fascinate and challenged, but also, that's become such a key for my artistic drive to find this diversity. How can we make it not put into the same world or put in a box ourselves too much through creativity or form or as a result of the performance piece or whatever. Yeah, so that's a big anchoring not anchoring, it's kind of hovering my thoughts a lot since I was lived in Japan and moved to Australia.
It made me think. We were talking a little bit earlier about some of the works that we've seen of yours, and particularly the recent work, that they're quite structured in that there's a lot of projections and a lot of music and costumes and directions, quite planned. And yet at the same time within it, you perform within it. There's no stress, you're unflustered, and you seem to be just being Yumi and making it up within this quite organized structure. And while you were talking, I thought, oh, that's so interesting because first of all, that's special. I think people tend to either kind of work with a strong structure and a choreography, or they tend to work with improvisation and a looseness. And you have brought the two together. First of all, that's amazing. But then while you were talking, I thought, is that because it's the marriage of Japanese culture and Australian culture, the strong Japanese structure and formality with the looseness of Australia? So you've managed to bring within your work a marriage of the cultures. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think so. I try to, I mean, of course, definitely Japanese influence in Australia now, definitely can that these things, but the duality is getting a little bit blurred too, because sometimes I feel Australia becomes so tight of like, for example, like COVID time, they are just like a hardcore, like a OHS and everything like this. And Japan, you think is a much hardcore on the structures, but you go get off and it's really loose and you get off and not checking for COVID initially, really loose. I was just see these huge temperature differences between two countries. So I can't say as a Japanese is always tidy and clean and always formalized, which people think that's in a good way of a stereotypical cliche. And that's exactly, I have to challenge myself too, because it's contained both strong energies and differences like yin and yang. And so as Australia, like you think, oh, hanging loose, no worries, mate, but then just like flip, and a certain idea of the theaters too, like so much forms and I mean, no, like Western theater has got a clear forms and a lot of technique behind and less abstract some parts, and so I can see both in a very bigger way. And for me, in a way, it's a kind of strength and luckiness for me to be learned or survived both culture. And plus Australia culture, I should say, not just only Western culture, totally indigenous culture, which I have lucky enough to access to and meet up a lot of people and worked with a lot of indigenous community since like 2000, early mid 2000. I started working a lot with company called like ButohOUT or company called Marugeku or other company who happen to be in contact to just make some, do work together. And it's quite intense commitment too. So you see Australia is just one layers, but then you're getting through 30 years, I start knowing this kind of superficial white culture, but underneath so many ancient indigenous culture plus land itself is so powerful. So it's just, I sort of giving up the duality of black and white thinking anymore. So white and Japanese, or, you know, Western Australia, Japanese ancient culture, and it's so good for me to also formalize, but also very fluid, as Neil, you said. So I make a structures to rely on some sort of anchoring, but within that, so many freedom, which I found it beyond the duality. But I still have to make a anchor in order for me to see it, because I wish I can just do improv from the beginning to the end. But I just love so many technical thing like projection, visual I love, and music I love, and then costume I love. So obviously my my recent solo is like I just combine everything, like a 8 costume change within 90 minutes. So, you know, just so many free video projections. And so I think that kind of in a way strength of incorporate everything, but reflecting myself as a little bit weakness is I put everything too much. So that's a question, but also unless you know everything, you cannot be making nothing. I mean, like some of the Zen concept, people not just put the Zen as nothing, like all of a sudden middle of nowhere, they don't put this is Zen. I have only one piece of pottery in the middle of a big room, you know, but people say that's not Zen. Zen is like all the craters, all big smash everything, but you have an effort to get rid of everything as a big effort to get rid of. Then one tiny thing's left on the space as a necessity, not just put them on, you know. So that's not only Zen, but that I found it powerful. So that's why the Japanese culture, I mean, again, going so many different genre, but you go to Japan, I feel like so many people running around and people are so busy, but then you open the room and the other room is just clean, and because they could have stuck the stuff practically because they have to, but they made effort to take off these craters, then stay in this simple room. And that's like a sort of power of getting rid of. I had to explain, but rather than just empty from the beginning, like in Australia, 3 kilometers away, nobody there, let's put some tea room. Oh yeah, that's nice. But if you middle of war zone or middle of busy Shinjuku, have a little tea room in the middle. Wow, that's an effort, and that's a power of emptiness, not just empty. So yeah, I think I was excited to myself to theorize a little bit and also meet up with tea practice. I have started learning my own Japanese tea ceremony last nearly 8 years. A bit surprising and horrified to say. I thought it was only a couple of years, but it's nearly 8 years. And that's told me a lot of things about spaces and intention to be clear and efficiency of the movement. So even tea ceremony is not just move. A place to be is like a less effort, and B, come back to C is less effort. And everything is based on the beauty, but effortlessly touching one place to the others. So when I start learning, like blown my mind away, because I thought Japanese tea ceremony is most conservative. People think female has to do tea ceremony before you get married to behave well. You know, that's kind of conceptually very common in Japan. But I've got, again, because luckily I was out from Japan, be in Australia, find it different perspective, my own cultures and tea ceremony, and also learn from, luckily, on my tea teachers, Australian guy, amazing, powerful, Japanese knowledge full, but the Aussie guy. So he tell me everything about Japan through his perspective, and I was thinking, wow, I never saw that. I never see that, you know. So again, out of the box, clean my box about my boxing my own idea of my own culture, like, oh, tea ceremony should be this and traditional, but it's not. It's more avant-garde and more subversive, and it's quite anarchy. So again, that's more takes a while to understand, because a lot of people still see Japanese tea ceremony, wow, beautiful, but I'm going a little bit deeper and understanding what's behind, and that's much more satisfied as a practitioner rather than just wowism. So I practice more in that deep, not just sit still and do tea ceremony, but why this yin and yang balancing on here. That's why they put them in together. So even I like improv and just do everything you like, but I just still love the anchoring by knowledge or structures in a way. Then you get rid of, because you can't get rid of otherwise, unless you have a structure or some sort of things to anchoring. Then we have a fun to get rid of. Yeah, that's sort of kind of thing.
Yumi, when I watch you perform, especially of recent,
yes,
I find it very impactful, and I think there's something about it oscillating between when you focus, when you draw everything down to a focus, which might be a quiet focus, which might be a tea ceremony, or paring everything back to just that, and then it can explode into a very sort of wild, expressive, liberating type of movement and way of being performatively, which I find personally makes me feel very liberated. It's as though I expand as I watch you explode in some ways, almost performatively on stage. And so what you're talking about feels like there's some sort of this movement between focusing in and yet at the same time being subversive and exploding out, and I find that very liberating as a witness. In saying that, where does improvisation sit amongst this for you, Yumi?
It's very good debate and interesting point. And improvisation, definition of improvisation, probably again culturally for me, maybe again it's a lot of discussion I can feel. But the other day I was thinking about it. Improvisation in Japanese, we say sokkyo. Sok is like immediate, kyo is a provoke. So immediate provocation, sokkyo. So, or provoke or happening. So sokkyo for me is not just because of provocation as in a wowism, again, like, oh, let's make a surprise, you know, but sokkyo is like almost firm yourself on your present. So for me, improvisation, again, is so many genres and so many like so many filter to go through improvisation. Because, for example, in the middle of any workshop, you just do improv and I do improv, but they have a filter of you do improv based on this theme, or you do improv today about this tea, or, you know, I just love filter, because otherwise improv, just do improv. I can do it any moment because I love improv, because main thing is just focus in the present, what you are, who you are, and what you got in front of it. So improv is, for me, is very philosophical, almost like Buddhist exercise. You just be on the present, you know. So when an audience cough, yeah, cough is happening. So, or not just a react, but just reflect. So because reaction, I can see a lot of improvisation sometimes react, constant happening. Well, react. People touch you, oh, you react. But not to react, but to respond into the deep present of you without being influenced superficially. I don't know. I'm not a philosopher or anything, but I can't say it properly. But something deeply within in your present, then you respond. Things happen in front of you. So I do actually love improv and durational thing. In fact, recently in Tasmania, we were actually 3 hours for lunch and 3 hours for dinner at Mona, most expensive restaurant, Faro. So improvisation. We said, let's improv 3 hours, lunch, 3 hours, dinner. Audience is eating. No audience, they are eating. But again, we're just trying to make it a empty blank canvas, but with still a little bit of structures. Maybe 30 minutes around that mark, we are focusing around this element. So we do make an improv score a little bit. So I do, maybe you in your definition, improvisation should be totally empty, but some people has that. But I have a improvisations too, in order to us to not get lost in our self-conscious mind. We do need a structure, because otherwise we do get self-conscious and we can't focus in the present moment. That's why for me, improv is easy to say, let's do improv, but that's why like a skillful performers like yourself, there you are improv, but you are still have a masterful way of focusing on the present rather than reacting or trying to preempt yourself in pre-structures and do something. I'm doing improv, but you're not doing improv. You're just making something up already. So it's hard to define, but for me, how you can make a technique to focus on the present. So in order to make this focus moment, emptiness, we need a little bit of filter or position to make ourselves a little bit not get lost. Otherwise, I mean, yeah, again, it's not technique, but I feel that's comfortable for me as improvisation, as a practitioner. But some people might say a different thing, and I'm open for this because I'm really open for the spontaneities and some sort of surprise. So this element could happen any moment, then you don't know. Oh, and one thing I was thinking about improvisation is also that's kind of connecting my philosophy about making work. I'm not making a work, but something else is making work. That's very important for me. Like that sounds a bit religious, but almost like I'm a medium between this space. So I am not trying to show something, but I am a filter. Again, like filter is coming from me, but I'm also myself as a pipe. So some sort of energies or feeling or collective senses from audiences, I just get it and I do it. So I'm not doing it, but I'm a channeling. I mean, that's I like channelers, people who actually be in a job of channeling people. And I'm not professional, but in a way, performers a bit like channeler. They have to be channeling into the space, and you are part of the space. So for me, improvisation is not me as an individual body to presenting anything, but I'm just present to be as a medium in filtering. Therefore, things happen. So it's quite connected to a lot of other practice I do, with spiritual practice of, yeah, a little bit Buddhism, a little bit of shamanism. Everything is not here, but coming from something above. So we are medium between this and that. So again, that's a bit abstract, but it helps me a lot rather than I am creating. I have to do it with this music, with this projector. I have to, that's become so I. So I just get rid of I, make a structure, but then filter through these element within this focus for the own presence and present moment. Something like that.
That makes so much sense to me, Yumi.
Is it?
Yeah, thanks so much for articulating that. Very difficult concepts to bring into language, and of course, and ultimately mysterious, and that's what's so exciting about it. It's an exploration. It's a process. I was thinking maybe now is a great time to talk about shamanism and your recent explorations and unpacking some of your knowings around that and how that you bringing that into your performance work.
Well, I think it's simply shamanism sounds like whoa, like this and exotic things, but personally, because I've been obviously working as an artist and do show and tours and do this job and teaching. I mean, mostly all art, everything teaching or exchanging or doing a tours. And I getting about 3 years ago, I got I'm really not got sick of it, but I just feel I just need something else. And I happen to be always grant application and don't like it, but sometimes help me through just write something. And usually I don't really like it, but this grant application, I happen to get the Creators Fund in Arts Victoria, Creative Victoria. And I thought, I just work with shamanism because that's sort of jujutsu. It's like called magic. Art is magic. You know, that was the word by Taro Okamoto, who's a quite famous Japanese avant-garde artist in 1920s or 30s almost. Maybe am I wrong, but yeah, almost like that time. He was born that time. Anyway, he said art is jujutsu, art is magic. So jujutsu is also translated as a Japanese notion of shamanism. So I thought, yeah, why is it? And in his book, he said art shouldn't be comprehended. Art should go somewhere else, but art should go from above, or like all channeling into something else and see the nature. That's all art, but you don't copy it. You go through it, or like all sort of. He's quite amazing. He's written a lot of books as well. So I sort of almost need my kind of little bit depleted idea of performing an artist. I need something else. So and the shamanism kind of all idea on making up a little bit, but I also have already interested in that territory. And also I do have a lot of friends who does do the channeling and clairvoyant and animal communicator, reading animals as a profession. She's a vet, but she can read animals as a profession. Or my friend channeler, she can just read these people's past life, but also can see this message from above. And other new person I start meeting, we already met, he's a shamanism specialist, American Indian shamanism specialist in Japan. So I actually put in a project, put them all together as a concept of learning from different expertise. So I learned this channelers and animal communicators and jujutsu specialists. And also I'm get the scientist about quantum physics specialist, which because I also, again, easy to get a little hippie-ish also, shamanism, but I do need like the scientific approval. So I also talked to Melbourne University and quantum physics science students I have interviewed, and I have a lucky enough to, again, I'm not the academic, but whenever I talk to them, I have, wow, they're so practically science versus spirituality was just in their brain, they're merging beautifully, but also they're very open. So I haven't really, I've wrapped the project, but I still have a very strong residue about this area of science and spirituality. So anyway, so that's a quantum physics. And then also I talked to the celebrant person who does death and life. Again, art is part of it, but never be first place, but spirituality and art is kind of combined with their world. Then I work with the 3 other artists, main artists I've been collaborated in the last 20 years. So I interviews and meet them. And one is Aboriginal person from Broome, Dahlia Pigram, and others Moira Finnegan, who does a lot of, she doesn't do shamanism, but her work is like channeling into the other world. And others, Tony App, obviously, he is the specialist of knowing and written about PhD about shamanism. So 3 artists and 5 specialists, and I did interviews and a little bit of a relatively comprehensive, my own way of interviews and put them in a form and because it's not academic paper and I could never do PhD anyway, so I was just putting my own files and collecting all the stories, and I did a showing which Neil can come to see it. You came to last year, yeah. So those things was because it's a quite comprehensive research on my own. I have a more interest in that territory of shamanism and spiritual element and healing aspect, but not as an art should be healing and shamanism, but I just thinking coexisting between the spiritual understanding and art practice rather than art product theory and theaters and performing arts market, you know, so that's boring. I don't like it. Sorry. I mean, I have to do it, but I just like, how can we make it this cohesive with us, our living and death and life? And also personally, I lost my brothers and father in the last 3 years, and just like death is a big thing. You die next day. What do you do now? So it's sort of not again separated. Death is other world, but death is part of us. Life is other world, but it's part of us too. So spirituality and channeling world is much more bigger than our human existence, but channeling something above us. So it's still working in progress. But whenever I stress in art making, I feel like that's okay. You don't have to do it. Somebody else can do for me. So I just like, so keep yourselves relaxed and then see this crappy Japanese DVD. Make it. But there was happened like several times. I was never working like this, and then you end up becoming more stressed. So just how you make yourself open and present, but something else and comfortable. And it's not easy to say, but it's not actually doing it. But we do miss a lot for artists too. So even talking about performing art, arts market, I did perform a few times with like tea or a bit of strange cleansing ritual, and then people are like, oh my God, that was so good, because they just needed a healing, not making art, just they bloody needed release their tension. So that's my focus, because we do need a healing. We are very caught up with this way of living, and we have to unfold and, you know, undo. And that's art should be part of the tool based on the spiritual understanding, not necessarily religions. I don't like much of one focus religious, but a shamanism, American Indian shamanism is a really close to Japanese old animism. So anyway, I'm learning a lot of things. People start, when I go to Japan, I just start interview people more, or just get the sessions and say, okay. So when you make a work, rather than thinking, you just lie down, just get the energy. So anyway, so that's a sort of very big breakthrough for me when that happened. So that was connection towards the new direction I was interested in. I mean, it's not new, it has been there, but make it more clarify. This is the way I want to pursue.
Yumi, when I mentioned earlier, when I watch you perform, I often do feel somehow liberated and freed from the while. But I just want to go back a little to the process you're talking about of being a conduit, of channeling, because most improvisers that we've talked to as well speak of being available to for what comes, and yet at the same time they have the task of crafting it as a performance, and these two things coexist, the being available and the crafting, because it is a performance. And crafting can mean many things. It can mean giving it a form intentionally, or it can mean just instinctively holding the whole piece together. Would you say a little bit more about that for you, especially when it comes to improvising, being a conduit and yet at the same time knowing it is being witnessed and it does take on a form and it has a duration, has a beginning and has an end? Would you talk a little about that regarding improvisation as performance?
I think it still depends on the individual, but as me as a practitioner, almost still technique is needed. So you do need some sort of improvised duration, but you do still need a technical tool. So you got to still a little bit of a discipline to practice a little bit, because you can't just beginners on just do improv, but they don't have anything to rely on. So I think still physical exercise, or we do need exercise of, because when you want to open, but my shoulder's too sore to open, so then with physical restriction, we're gonna be like, because we are, as we say, we are pipe or fun, we are medium in between, but this medium has to be cleansed a little bit and clean up a little bit, because this too much residue from previous one, or we do have a lot of preconscious and already done it. So thinking, put them in your because most idea we are coming from is our past memories, so we just got to clean a little bit and make ourselves innocent as possible. So that's a training to be clean up and also firm rather than fragile, and we break so easily for this pipe. So just keep it firm, keep it clean, keep it neutral. And of course, you got your own character as a pipe. You do need a, iron pipe person, or, soft silicon pipe people, so colorful rainbow pipe, so that's the individual color we're going to make it. But and that's pipe polishing is a part of tools in a way. And that's almost like for borrowing the idea of the shamanism of American Indian shamanism, they call hollow bone. They could be as a hollow, empty bone. So you're a hollow bone, and they just get something of boning up between you, get something. So hollow bone, you are born as a hollow, not bone, but you are bone, bone, not boning in Japan or anything, bone, B-O-N-E. So, but still then you're getting this, what do you call, conjuring, these things is getting into this something. So I think rather than trying to get it, but just clean this pipe first and see what happens, because wind might blow and then maybe rain gonna start happening. So I will not gonna preempt it what's gonna happen. So in a way, improvisation could be just before you do that. Just for me, it's everything is performance is a ritual. So you get, before you enter, you just clean your pipe and make it neutral and come in there. But then so many things happen in front of us, so we have prepared to be accept whatever happened in front of us. But then taking in, and that's another element. So how you, if all the some sticky rice coming in stuck, how do you do it? And you just chew it and eat them, because your intuition, or just put them, squeeze and making another bowls and make a shape, or so this sort of result process, the movement would come after, so which we don't preempt it, but as long as you're neutral in the middle, that will come as a result. And if it happens something, for me, it's improvisation is always the case, like let them happen, then I'm going to chase on to this action. So if something happening, this cup appears, I didn't know what's cup happened. So let's just play with now. You're going to land somewhere. Then rather than get disinterest quickly, I'm going to stay this a little bit because that's magic appeared. Let's play on this magic. But then that's going to start, finish, then back to either neutral, or I can be segue of something. Again, that's, I can't preempt it, but make sure I myself make sure keep it open. Sometimes my rational head thinking, that's it, nothing happened. Oh, it's get boring. Judgmental things happen, but then just drop and what is it? And listening, and so as the audience is listening, I'm listening with my own body. Yeah, things like that. So don't know technically, but I feel like this while I'm talking, this bone to clean, pipe to be clean before the improvisation, and after that, let them play. And then eventually your bone could be really, bone or pipe could be your uniqueness, because people believe in this shamanism too, like people think you have your own perfect design, Don't push around. You have got perfect. Don't have to get the new information. You are who you are. Like in Butoh too, we said you're authentic being. Don't just get to another new I mean, you don't have to learn new things. You're gonna almost defunctionalize of your education. Just get back to who you are, you know. So in a way, that's also find your own color, find your own pipe, find your own funnel for us to be processed and making up after that, because the process is different. So even same contents coming from different pipe, this different and different way of operating. So that's why I find in improvisation, even same contents, people do so many different way of reading it and doing it. So yeah.
Well, Yumi, we need
talk a lot.
to bring this to a close. So thank you so much for bringing your cleansed pipe here today with us.
Pipe ritual.
Lovely provocations for us to think about and for the viewers to think about.
Actually, it's a good name. Cleansing Pipe Workshop.
Yeah, I like it a lot, and I can relate to it. So once again, thank you, Yumi.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time. Thanks for your work. Thanks for your love.
Thank you, Yumi. It's been a delight to have you on this morning. And I feel, as Neil said, we could go on and on and on and delve into many of these areas in much detail. But how rich it's been. Thank you.
Thank you.